Are we having a party here? I don't know.
Welcome to Polishing Profits. Join our three industry experts boasting 140 years of experience as they unlock building service contracting secrets that can revolutionize your business.
Well, welcome to Polishing Profits. And at first glance here, you're going to see there are two on the screen and not three. Now, I could give you some story about Ed's electronic janitorial closet flooding or some catastrophe, the reason he's not with us. But basically, the reason he's not here, he's enjoying some family time with his daughter this week. And we said it early on, but Polishing Profits has a lot of different faces. And, it might be the three of us on a panel. The two of us today will be, myself and Sharon. It might be Sharon and Ed, or you'll see us come on with our own guests and we'll bring guests on together. All this is designed to give you a lot of different looks and a lot of different angles about how to approach problems and tasks and find solutions that work for you. So you're not always, the great thing about this, you're not always getting the same answer. You're getting a majority of opinions and views from different people, and you can put it together and see how it works for you. So that's what we're about. So Sharon, do you want to say hello? Ed's off and about today.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time it is that you're watching this. It's great to be
here. Good evening, good weekend.
Good weekend. Good holiday.
Good holiday. Yeah, at least we digress.
Yes. No.
We're going to pick up,
but we're going to give it our best shot without him.
Well, Ed's having fun and we're working, so we'll just have to chalk it up to that. But for a good reason, his daughter's in town. So
yeah.
So with that said, we are working our way through delegation. This has been designed to move into planning. So we're going to talk about delegating, because when you plan, you got to decide how to better use your time to move your company to where you want to go next year in 24.
Yeah. And we're talking about having some downloads and some handouts and some exercises for our listeners to do on their own about their own company, to give you some tangible hands-on materials to use in your company.
Yeah, we've had some requests on that. What about handouts? How can we find the information? The team that runs these podcasts, the five of us, had a pretty good meeting last week. I think we went a couple hours of brainstorming ideas. And what are some of the things that came out of that, Sharon, from your recollection?
Well, some of the things were the desire to provide show documents and our notes that we used as a guide. In addition to that, some training material that can be downloaded and used, and even a worksheet, something that takes you back to your classroom days of filling out information. It makes you think about your business. It makes you really think about it and do something about it in terms of planning, and rather than just listen to us talk and say, yeah, that's a good idea, and I need to do that, and then nothing more ever happens from it. So to have something tangible for you to work on is our goal.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Sharon started out in life as an educator and a teacher, moved to the corporate world, got unhappy with that, and threw the corporate world away and bought herself a janitorial service.
Right? Why not? Right?
Why not? Which she drove to a $5 or $6 million revenue. So she's got a wide amount of experience in helping us get the right documents and the right things to help you get some additional value out of these sessions. All right. So here we go. Mastering delegation, the why. We're just going to bounce this around, Sharon. So go ahead and go for it.
Yeah. I think from my experience, both in education and in corporate America, and in owning my own business, was learning that task of delegation. That skill is really paramount to your success. It's really something that takes you from being an owner-operator, starting there, moving to an owner of a large business, medium size, small size, whatever size it is, understanding the value of your time and what you bring to the organization. The owner is, of course, the most expensive person in the company. whether they pay themselves or not. And I hear that all the time. I'd like to be able to be taking a paycheck. So we need to dig deep and work and find out why that's not happening. But that's another topic. But learning to delegate is a critical skill that you need to learn. And we've got some ideas for you as to how to accomplish that. And one of the things I find most often is people who have been owner operators or have started out doing the cleaning and the work in the company themselves, the technical field work themselves, often find it very difficult to give up control of that. And giving up control of anything, whether it's in your office or the field, seems to be a big personality. I'm not going to say deficiency, but it's getting in your way. It's getting in your way of growing your business. So learning to overcome that.
Yeah, it gets to be a roadblock. And I think our first why, going right into that, is it saves time. Effective. Now, effective delegation saves time. We've talked a little bit to this point in a couple prior episodes, but high priority tasks requiring unique skills and expertise have to be delegated effectively. In other words, when you delegate, you have to decide what you're going to delegate, why, and who you're going to select to delegate that to. You've got to have somebody that's capable. So you need to know what your jobs are and what do you need to do to free your time. Because like Sharon said, your business isn't going to grow. And I don't care if you're doing 500,000 or you're doing 8 million. You're not going to move forward unless you know how to delegate and all of your team knows how to delegate and how to select people to delegate to. And that can be a tough process. How did you pick people you were going to delegate to, Sharon? What was your methodology?
One of the things I did was I learned the personalities, I learned the strengths and weaknesses of those around me. And I'm talking mostly about admin staff now, field operations staff, and found their strengths. And once I had identified those, it was easier to match them up with skills. For example, someone who didn't have good people skills, maybe was a great technician, maybe could clean unbelievably, lack the people skills, that would not be a person I would put in place as a trainer. Okay. Because the number one thing a trainer needs, and this goes to identifying the strengths, what a trainer needs is the ability to work with people and encourage and motivate people to do a great job besides the technical ability. So if they're lacking one of those, they're not going to be a good fit to delegate that training.
Right. And we're developing professionals. One of the things we always look for, we were always looking, and I don't care, all the way from your cleaning technicians to your managers to your executives, do they have the potential to move up? Can we develop the next level and move them up the career path and become more professional, regardless of where they're starting than what they're doing today? I mean, we would start looking, if we found an outstanding cleaner in an interview and we watched them work, we'd start slating them for foreman or assistant supervisor. And we would be preparing for the next, whether we were going to get our next gig or account, excuse me, we're not playing music. And if we were going to get our next account and it required that, we were always had somebody on the tank. We were always thinking succession. We didn't care if it was down to the cleaning technician. What are the people leave for all kinds of reasons, and it's not always they're unhappy. They move, they get married, they die, interests change. So delegating helps you to start testing the waters as you've identified somebody for their next step up or career path. And you start small, you don't start big. You know, don't say, hey, here's my P&L, review this for me, unless it's a VP you're going to make president or something. So pick your tasks. Our third item is prepare for larger teams. What would be your comments on that in regard to delegating and building a larger team?
Yeah, for large teams.
Yep.
You said, yeah. That has to do with, you have to start with picking the tasks. So if you haven't done that, that's where you start. And then you separate them out by who can you match those tasks up with? Who in your organization has got the skill and the ability to manage those particular tasks? And then you put them together. And the larger your team becomes, the more, and I don't want to send the wrong message, the more supervision and oversight is needed. That said, there's a fine balance because you have to trust that the people you have selected can do the job. So, and then you become the one that oversees the overseers and you get the reports, but you're not necessarily in the weeds with the people you've delegated to.
I toss out here is Situational Leadership by Ken Blanchard. I don't know if you used it. I still use it today working with clients. And basically it tells you, it takes people through the delegation process. And there's 4 quadrants. I tend to gravitate to things in 4 or 3 quadrants for some reason.
Right.
But it makes it, are these people, do you have to tell them what to do and show them what to do all the time? Or it's a delegation process as you reel things out and it's dealing with people understanding what they can do for you and can they do what you're asking them to do. And this moves us, basically, it also, I'm looking at the next point, it inspires them to some better performance as they delegate and they're successful. If they're not successful, you back up the truck and you try again until at some point you realize this is as far as we're going. But honestly, I think that in the last 15 years, we did not hire, I would say we only hired from outside probably 20% of the time.
Right, and that's
we
great.
Absolutely had to.
Yes.
Everybody was developed.
Yeah. And you develop them along and you have a career path, which really speaks to an advantage for your company if that career path is evident during the interview process. If you go all the way back to the interview process so that this applicant knows that there is a possibility down the road that I could be a manager, a supervisor, a foreman, whatever you call it in your company. But so having that clearly defined as a goal, and part of the effectiveness of delegation is having the goal. What is the outcome that you want from this person? Do you want them to take over your payroll or take over your receivables and payables or take over the training and supervision of your field? What is it that you want in each one of these specifics and helping them work toward reaching those goals?
And I think to moving people up, we're interchanging the words succession and career path. They're one and the same. Sharon calls it career path, I do too, or succession planning. But in order to delegate, and I've worked with quite a few clients, somewhat to my surprise, regardless of how far along they are on the revenue continuum, how much revenue they're billing, we'll start to look at, well, how is our organization set up? If you don't have an org chart and you don't have responsibilities, tasks, and outcomes, how do you delegate anything? How do you know? And that will start with the owners. You have to know what you're doing, what it takes to do it, in order to give it to somebody else, 1, to know if they're doing it right, and 2, to help them along the path to get it done correctly as they work through learning. And as you get larger, the larger teams require those templates or formats on a job description. And I'm not talking about a 100-point thing, what to do every day process. What are the big goals? In other words, quality control, inspections, customer relations. What are your responsibilities? What do you expect to get out in an outcome for each of those areas? And when you're bringing a person up, you have to be able to show them what you expect for them, what they should be producing in order to delegate it. That's my thought, Sharon. What do you think of that angle?
I think that's good. I think that there's an interesting Gallup poll that came out not too long ago that says that CEOs who effectively, and that's the key word, effectively delegate, can realize 33% more revenue because the delegation frees up that CEO to work on higher value, higher value tasks and items, things that they're spending their time on. And it also helps with employee engagement. But it's the CEO we're really concerned with. And again, looking at what you're doing with your time. Am I doing something that a $15 an hour person could easily handle? Am I spending my time doing tasks that someone else could do? And that's the key decision making question for when you plan your day.
What I want you to run that stat by one more time. I heard the 33%. Run it by again, just in case everybody.
CEOs who delegate effectively generate 33% more revenue because they're spending their time driving the business, which is their number one goal, is to drive the sales and drive the business, no matter what form that takes. So when they're not, every hour that they're not spending driving the business is costing the company money.
Yeah, they're doing low value tasks.
They're doing the tasks.
And I think they're doing tasks so a couple things come to mind here. First off, you won't want to miss the next episode. We're going to talk about the Covey quadrant, which is going to help you figure out what those tasks are, what are important, what are urgent, what are low value and high value, but we'll save that for next episode. The other side of looking at this is I've talked to owners that go, well, I don't have the money to hire somebody. And I'm fine with that. I get it. But on the other side, have you done the math? Famous question, do the math. Mm-hmm. But if you're working on things, as Sharon said, that you can delegate to somebody $15, $17 an hour and you can get out and make a sale. You can get out and get tighter with a customer and get upsell, cross-sell. You can do things that are growing and basically building the value. When I say building the value, I'm talking about bottom line. Buyers don't buy revenue. They buy profit. EBITDA and everything else is figured off of profit. It isn't figured off of revenue. So are you doing the things that are of the highest value? And if you don't know, you have to sit down and write. I'm working with a couple clients now and we all get in this mess. I've been in it. Sharon's been in it. Ed's been in it. You get so busy, you grow, and all of a sudden you're doing all this stuff. I'm wondering why customers aren't getting seen. I'm not getting new accounts because you're doing too many things. So you got to take and sort and basically do a data dump and maybe the 5 or 6 key areas of your business. We'll go into that in the the Covey quadrant and Eisenhower are the same thing, by the way. So once you do that, you can start figuring out, I'm losing Sharon's statistic there, 33% more revenue, which means 33% more profit if all things are equal. Mm-hmm. And that is how you grow your business. As you get more money, you bring on more people. I can remember there were years, my partners and I, we didn't take raises because we had to put on staff. And we had to pay that staff well enough to stay. Managers, I was going to say high value supervisors that are project managers, because if you don't have them, it doesn't run and you wind up doing things you shouldn't be doing, handling too many complaints, not growing the business. So again, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And who do you need to do it?
The scrub down, a recap of what was covered on today's episode.
And kind of to wrap from my perspective, if you hear yourself saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And when I hear that from a client, it is a huge red flag. And that means that's the number one priority we need to tackle right away, is that delegating so you do have time. That's really not an excuse for not getting the higher value things done.
But Sharon, you don't understand. I'm busy.
Know. I don't have time. And I don't have
one more thing in my day, Sharon. You don't understand.
Oh, find somebody else to do that menial stuff.
Anybody wondering why we're laughing? Not only we said it to ourselves, we hear it regularly.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, we're not working on what we should be. Well, the first thing we have to do is work on you getting the time to do the high value items as the founder, the entrepreneur, the owner, whatever category you happen to fall in.
Yeah.
And we get lost. You can't see the forest from the trees, and it's so easy to do. And as your business grows, even if you grow from 5 to 10 million, 10 to 15, things change. And you don't look at them often enough. And part of the reason, go ahead.
I was going to say developing good habits of delegation early on in your business, and it may be very small. You may be able to afford someone part-time and not full-time. And so then you begin your delegation honing and understanding how to work that skill, how to develop that skill. So you do it slowly, and you maybe start with one task. Then you're allowed to grow your business because you're free to work it. And then you make that person full-time. So now you're delegating more. So it builds and it builds. So no matter what volume you're at, you can learn to delegate.
As we wrap up, I'm going to take that and hitchhike off real quickly. So people go, well, I can't delegate. I don't know how. Well, if you are an owner that started out like most of us did, when you hired your first part-time employee, which Sharon referred to, you've delegated. How well that employee does or doesn't do is based on how well you delegate and direct them. But all of us delegate, because unless you're doing all the cleaning yourself, which we're not talking to those folks, not that we're not talking to them. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that's not the group we're addressing here today. You've got to learn to delegate and not hold on to things. And does it require risk? Yeah, it does. But if you hire cleaners and you've got more than yourself cleaning, you are well on your way to understanding how to delegate.
Right.
And then it's just now that's why we have tasks and responsibility sheets, because as we go, you're not going to be the supervisor. I remember when I hired a window cleaner. What a glorious day! I hated windows. I hated running the window route. And but I knew exactly what he had to do, where he had to go, what the route schedule was, and what the client expected. And I delegated. So we move ourselves up the ladder as we bring people along to be successful with us. So what else? I'm going to let you have the last word, Sharon. So go ahead.
Okay. Just to reiterate, it's the most important skill you can learn in your business, because if you don't learn that skill, your inability to have free time to build your business is hampered. And you're going to have one roadblock in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other to build your business. There will always be a reason why you don't have time. So if you hear yourself saying that, it's a red flag to yourself. So let's get on track. Contact Ed or Mark or myself, and we can help you get on track with better delegation.
Excellent.
Right.
We should be in good stead. So with that, we're going to say adios. We'll see you all next week. And Mr. Ed will be back in the electronic janitorial closet. All right. Bye.